Ethan Cole woke to the faint hum of the alien palace's systems. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. The soft glow on the walls shifted from blue to pale gold, mimicking a sunrise, and the alien stars beyond the wide window shone, like frost on glass. Then it hit him. He wasn't on Earth, not even close. He was in the Veyari royal palace, in the private wing, and the alien queen had personally asked him if he was single. He sat up slowly, running a hand over his face. The bed was enormous, the sheets soft as silk, but warmer. The room still smelled, faintly of flowers and something like sweet metal. His thoughts went back to the private garden, her strange words, and that small, knowing smile. This is still a diplomatic mission, he told himself. Stay calm, play along, and get out without offending anyone. Easier said than done. A soft chime echoed. The door slid open, and a Veyari servant entered, carrying a folded garment over one arm. The servant bowed slightly, an odd gesture for an alien whose culture didn't seem big on bending their necks. "The Queen requests your presence in her private chamber," the servant said in careful English. "You are to wear this." Ethan took the garment. It was a long, dark coat with a high collar, embroidered with silver thread in looping patterns. "Feels a little formal," he muttered. "It is a sign of respect," the servant replied. "You will be dining with her." Dining with her. The words made his pulse quicken. This was moving fast. They walked through the palace's curved halls, past alien nobles in flowing robes and guards in shining armor. Many stared openly at Ethan, some with curiosity, others with cold disdain. When they reached the Queen's private dining hall, two towering guards opened the doors. Inside, the room was lit with soft golden light. A table of polished crystal stretched between them, covered with dishes that looked like jewels, slices of glowing fruit, curling strips of roasted meat, tall glasses filled with shimmering liquid. The Queen was already there, seated at the far end. She wore no crown this time, just a simple silver clasp in her hair. Without the heavy royal regalia, she looked different. Still regal, but somehow warmer. "Sit, human," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Ethan did. The seat was surprisingly comfortable, adjusting its shape to fit him. He tried not to look as awkward as he felt. "I hope the palace has treated you well," she began, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of interest. "It's incredible," he admitted. "I've never seen anything like it." "You will see more," she said. "But first, I will be direct." She leaned forward slightly, her violet eyes locking on his. "Do you know why I asked you that question in the court yesterday?" Ethan hesitated. "I'm guessing it wasn't small talk." The corners of her mouth curved faintly. "Correct. In my culture, the question of mating is not casual. It is a matter of legacy, of alliance, of the survival of bloodlines. I asked you because I am seeking a bond." Ethan blinked. "A bond with me?" "Yes." Her tone was calm, as though she had just announced the weather. "A life bond. A union between my blood and yours." He stared at her, trying to process it. "We've barely spoken. You saved one of my envoys 3 months ago on the colony world of Theros," she said. "I know your record, your history. I have read the reports of your missions. You are courageous, adaptable, and unexpected. That's not usually a word people use for me," he muttered. "In my court, that is a compliment," she replied. "The Veyari Empire stands at the edge of danger. A union with a human, and with you specifically, would send a message of strength to our enemies and our allies. And I believe—" She paused, almost as if choosing her words carefully. "I believe there is something in you that my people need." Ethan sat back, his thoughts spinning. This wasn't just about attraction. It was politics. A partnership that could change the future of two civilizations. "You understand this isn't a small thing for me," he said slowly. "Yes," she replied. "That is why I will give you time. But know this. Others in my court will not approve. You will face whispers, challenges, perhaps even threats." As if on cue, the doors opened and a tall figure stepped inside. He was broad-shouldered, with pale blue skin and eyes like molten silver. His robe was trimmed in gold, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had never been denied anything. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "I did not know you were entertaining." The Queen's tone was cool. "Lord Vesthar, this is Lieutenant Ethan Cole of Humanity." Vesthar's eyes flicked to Ethan, scanning him as if weighing his worth and finding it lacking. "A human," he said flatly. "How unusual." Ethan gave him a polite nod. "Nice to meet you." The noble's lips curved in something that was not quite a smile. "I hope your stay here is brief." "That will be for me to decide," the Queen said sharply. Her voice left no room for argument. Vesthar bowed again, but his eyes stayed, locked on Ethan with a silent message. "You don't belong here." Then he turned and left. The Queen watched him go. "That one," she said quietly, "has long desired the throne. You will not be safe around him." Ethan let out a slow breath. "I'm starting to think I'm not safe around anyone here." Later that day, the Queen's guards escorted Ethan through the palace gardens. The air was warm, carrying scents of alien flowers and faint electricity. Veyari workers tended to glowing plants, while others shaped crystal pathways with strange tools. As Ethan passed, some of the workers paused to watch him. A few even nodded respectfully. It was a small thing, but it surprised him. Maybe not everyone here saw him as an intruder. His escort, a female guard named Thavira, spoke quietly as they walked. "Word has spread quickly. Some believe you are the Queen's choice for life bond. Many will not like it." Ethan glanced at her. "And you?" She hesitated. "I think you have courage, but courage alone will not keep you alive here." Her warning echoed in his mind when, that evening, the palace held a formal banquet. Ethan was seated near the Queen, surrounded by nobles, advisors, and military commanders. Conversation flowed in both Veyari and translated English, though Ethan caught more glares than smiles. Halfway through the meal, a sudden flicker ran through the lights. A faint hum grew in the air. Then, without warning, the chandelier above Ethan's seat dropped. Instinct took over. He shoved his chair back just as the massive crystal fixture crashed onto the table, sending shards flying. Nobles cried out in shock. Guards rushed forward. Thavira was already scanning the ceiling. "Sabotage," she said grimly. The Queen stood, her eyes narrowing. "Find who did this." Ethan rose to his feet, his pulse racing. He'd been in firefights, ship crashes, and ambushes before, but the idea that someone had just tried to kill him inside the Queen's palace was something else entirely. The Queen looked at him for a long moment. "You are unharmed?" "Yeah," he said, "but I'm guessing that wasn't an accident." Her voice was low, but there was steel in it. "No, it was a warning to both of us." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood by the window, in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, far beyond reach. Here, in the heart of the Veyari Empire, he was caught in a web of politics, danger, and something else. The Queen's proposal still echoed in his mind. She wanted a bond, for politics, for unity, maybe even for personal reasons. But with every passing hour, it was becoming clear that saying yes wouldn't just change his life. It might shorten it. And yet, as he thought of her calm voice, her unshakable gaze, he felt something unexpected. Not fear. Not exactly. Something closer to curiosity. The crystal shards still glittered faintly in the banquet hall, like dangerous stars fallen from the sky. Ethan Cole could still feel the adrenaline pounding in his chest. The attempt on his life was no longer a distant threat. It was real. And it had happened inside the heart of the Veyari Palace. The Queen's sharp eyes swept the room as guards sealed the exits and began questioning the guests. The nobles murmured among themselves, some with genuine concern, others with barely hidden satisfaction. Ethan stood beside Queen Saravina, his stance steady despite the shock. The nobles were watching him, some with doubt, some with suspicion. It was clear many did not want him here, much less near their queen. "Who would do this?" Ethan asked, voice low but firm. The queen's gaze darkened. "There are those who fear change, human. Those who do not want the Veyari to join with your kind." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then they're afraid of more than just politics. They see me as a threat." The queen's lips curved. "You are more than a soldier. You are a symbol. That makes you dangerous." In the days that followed, Ethan's life became a delicate balance of danger and diplomacy. The palace corridors that once seemed majestic now felt like a maze of watchful eyes and whispered threats. Lord Vesthar's cold glances haunted him. The noble's voice was polite, but every word dripped with contempt. "Human, your presence is tolerated, but do not forget where you are." Ethan refused to be cowed. He attended council meetings, standing beside Saravina, listening to disputes over borders, trade, and ancient laws. Slowly he began to speak, cautiously at first, then with more confidence. His ideas were simple but effective. He suggested shared patrols along contested borders, combining human technology with Veyari tactics. He proposed diplomatic exchanges to ease tensions with neighboring star systems. To everyone's surprise, the Queen listened, and she let Ethan speak. One afternoon, Ethan was walking through the palace gardens when he noticed a small group of Veyari workers watching him from a distance. Unlike the nobles, their faces showed curiosity, some even respect. A young worker stepped forward. "You saved the colony of Theros?" she said softly. "We remember." Ethan smiled. "I only did what anyone would do." "No," she replied. "You fought when many would have run. You are different." Her words warmed him, but he didn't have time to ask more. A sharp voice interrupted. "Lieutenant Cole, a moment, please." It was Thavira, the female guard who had warned him earlier. She led him through a side corridor to a small chamber where several guards and advisors waited. Their expressions were serious. "There's been more unrest," Thavira said. "Some nobles are planning to remove you, and possibly the Queen." Ethan's heart sank. "How?" "One of them has hired mercenaries. They are planning an attack during tomorrow's council meeting." The room fell silent. That night, Ethan and the Queen met in her private chambers. The walls glowed softly, casting shadows that danced like flames. "Tell me everything," Saravina said. Ethan recounted. "The warning. They want to kill me, and maybe you." The Queen nodded slowly. "Vesthar's ambition knows no limits. He will stop at nothing." "We need to prepare," Ethan said. "I want to train with your guards. Teach them human combat tactics." She considered this. "Very well, you will have access to our best warriors." Ethan felt a spark of hope. Maybe he wasn't alone. The next day, the council meeting began in a grand chamber filled with delegates. The air was thick with tension. Ethan stood beside Saravina, ready for whatever would come. As the meeting progressed, the doors suddenly burst open. Masked figures stormed inside, weapons drawn. Chaos erupted. Ethan reacted quickly, pulling a stun pistol from his belt. He fired precise shots, disabling 2 attackers. The Veyari guards rallied, pushing the mercenaries back. In the melee, Ethan spotted Lord Vesthar in the crowd, trying to escape. With a powerful leap, Ethan tackled him to the ground. "Your game is over," Ethan said, gripping Vesthar's arm. The guards arrested the noble as the last mercenary fled. After the battle, the Queen addressed the court. "This attack shows how fragile our peace is, but it also shows the strength of new alliances." She turned to Ethan. "You have proven yourself not only brave but loyal. You have earned the respect of many here. Some nobles clapped, others remained silent. But for the first time, Ethan felt that he belonged, at least a little. In the weeks that followed, Ethan trained with the Veari warriors. He taught them human fighting techniques, how to move quietly, how to use cover, how to think like a soldier rather than just a noble. He learned from them, too, their discipline, their strategy, and the power of their psychic senses. One evening, as they sparred, Thavira approached. "You have changed this court," she said quietly, "for better or worse." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "I'm just trying to survive." "No," she smiled faintly. "You're making history." Late one night, Ethan sat with the Queen in the palace garden. The stars shimmered overhead, and the alien flowers gave off a soft glow. "You have faced much," Saravina said, "yet you remain strong." Ethan looked at her. "Why me? Why choose a human?" She reached out, brushing a stray hair from his forehead. "Because I see what others do not. A strength born from hope, courage, and an unyielding will. You remind me of the future we could build." Ethan swallowed hard. "And if I refuse?" The Queen smiled softly. "Then our worlds may fall apart. But I believe you will choose to stand with me." The court had many enemies, but Ethan had found allies, too, and with the Queen by his side, he was ready for whatever would come next. The palace felt quieter than usual. Even the usual hum of the energy walls seemed muted, as if the whole building was holding its breath. Ethan Cole stood in the Queen's private chamber, watching her as she stared out into the vast star field. Beyond the window, for days she had been unusually silent, her mind heavy with secrets. Ethan had learned to read the subtle changes in her expression, the flicker of worry in her violet eyes, the tension in her graceful shoulders. Tonight, she finally spoke. "Ethan," Saravina began, her voice soft but steady, "there is more to this than politics and alliances." Ethan turned toward her, his heart quickening. "What do you mean?" She gestured for him to sit, and he obeyed. The crystal chair molded to his shape, comforting yet unfamiliar. "The Veari Empire faces an enemy unlike any before," she said. "A force that threatens not just my people, but all who live in this sector of the galaxy." Ethan leaned forward. "An enemy? What kind?" Her eyes darkened. "They call themselves the Zorkai." The Zorkai were a secret known to few outside the highest levels of Veari command. Ethan had heard whispers but never believed the full story until now. "They are creatures of shadow and mind," the Queen explained. "They infiltrate without warning, controlling the thoughts and wills of their victims. Entire worlds fall under their sway without a single battle fought openly." Ethan swallowed hard. "Mind control? Yes. They twist loyalty, turn friends into enemies, and weaken even the strongest defenses." The Queen's fingers tightened on the armrests. "Our spies tell us the Zorkai have begun a new wave of attacks. We have lost entire fleets and colonies." Ethan's training kicked in. "How can we fight an enemy like that?" "That is why I asked you," she said, her voice low. "Humans appear resistant to Zorkai influence. Your minds are unpredictable, your will strong." Ethan frowned. "I don't know about that. We're just stubborn." Saravina smiled faintly. "Stubbornness can be a weapon." Over the next days, Ethan joined secret briefings with Veari commanders. He learned of lost planets, of battles won and lost, and the heavy toll the Zorkai were taking. "We need new strategies," Ethan said during one meeting. "We can't fight an invisible enemy with traditional weapons." A commander nodded. "We are exploring psychic shielding, but it's limited." Ethan proposed using human technology combined with Veyari psychic training. "We can train soldiers to recognize and resist mental attacks." Saravina watched quietly, her faith in him growing. One afternoon, as Ethan trained with the Queen's Royal Guard, a sudden alarm blared through the palace. Guards rushed past, weapons drawn. "Zorkai attack!" someone shouted. Ethan and Saravina raced to the command center. The holographic map showed red blips swarming near the capital system. "They are here," Saravina said grimly. "Prepare for battle." The battle was fierce. Zorkai ships darted through the stars, their energy weapons tearing into Veyari defenses. But worse than the physical attack was the psychic assault. Ethan felt it like a pressure in his mind, a cold whisper trying to bend his thoughts. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to focus, using every trick the Veyari had taught him. Beside him, Saravina's eyes glowed with power as she unleashed a psychic blast that shattered the nearest enemy vessel. Together, they fought back to back, a perfect balance of human grit and Veyari strength. The tide turned when Ethan led a small strike team to the enemy's command ship. They fought their way through shadowy corridors, where the air felt thick with dread. At the heart of the ship, they faced the Zorkai warlord, a towering figure with shifting, smoky form and eyes that burned with hatred. Ethan raised his stun, pistol, and fired. The warlord laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "You cannot stop what is already inside," it hissed. But Ethan stood firm. "Maybe not, but I'm not giving up." With Saravina's psychic power and Ethan's determination, they defeated the warlord, causing the Zorkai fleet to retreat. Back on the palace balcony, the night air was cool and calm. Ethan looked at Saravina, feeling a connection deeper than before. "You saved us all," she said softly. "But more than that, you saved me." Ethan shook his head. "We saved each other," she smiled. "You understand now why I asked if you were single. A bond between us is more than political. It is the hope of two worlds." Ethan reached for her hand. "Then let's face the future, together." The stars above the Veyari capital twinkled like scattered diamonds as Ethan Cole stood on the palace balcony beside Queen Saravina. The city below buzzed with life, ships gliding through the skies, citizens moving through their nightly routines, unaware of the battles and struggles that had almost torn their world apart. Ethan inhaled deeply, feeling the alien night air fill his lungs. It was different from Earth's fresh breeze, but somehow comforting in its own way. "We have come far," Saravina said quietly, her hand brushing his. "From the moment I asked if you were single, everything changed." Ethan smiled. "I never expected to be standing here beside an alien queen." She chuckled softly, violet eyes shimmering in the moonlight. "And I never expected to choose a human as my partner." The past weeks had been a whirlwind. After the Zorkai attack, Ethan and Saravina had worked tirelessly to strengthen the alliance between humans and Veyari. Soldiers from both worlds trained together, sharing tactics and knowledge. Scientists collaborated on new technologies to detect and resist psychic attacks. Diplomats negotiated treaties to unite their peoples. But the true bond between Ethan and Saravina was personal, as much as political. Their connection had grown through battles fought side by side, secrets shared in quiet moments, and trust forged in fire. Tonight was a special night, the official ceremony to declare their union before the court and the galaxy. The great hall was filled with nobles, warriors, diplomats, and honored guests from many worlds. The walls glowed with shifting colors, and the air hummed with excitement and tension. Ethan adjusted his formal uniform, feeling the weight of many eyes upon him. Beside him, Saravina wore a gown woven from shimmering threads that caught the light like stars. The high priestess stepped forward, her voice echoing through the hall. Today, we witness a bond that transcends worlds, a union that will strengthen our futures and bind humanity and the Veyari Empire forever. The ceremony was simple, but powerful. Ethan and Saravina exchanged tokens, a crystal pendant from her people and a human ring from his. As they placed the symbols on each other, a warm glow spread through the hall. The ancient magic of the Veyari life bond mingled with the human promise of loyalty and love. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. Some nobles smiled in approval, others clenched their fists in anger. But the queen's voice rang clear. This union is not just mine. It belongs to both our peoples. Together we face the future. After the ceremony, Ethan found himself surrounded by new allies. Veyari warriors who had once doubted him now respected him as a leader. Diplomats who feared human unpredictability now sought his counsel. Yet there were still challenges ahead. The Zorkai threat was not over. New enemies lurked in the shadows, and some nobles plotted to break the bond. But Ethan felt ready. Days later, Ethan and Saravina stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as fleets of human and Veyari ships prepared for a joint patrol. He turned to her, feeling the weight of responsibility and hope. We fight not just for our people, but for this bond, our bond. She smiled, taking his hand. Together, we are stronger than anything the galaxy can throw at us. As the ships soared into the stars, Ethan thought back to the moment when the Queen first asked, "Are you single, human?" What had seemed like a simple question was the beginning of a story that changed two worlds forever, and he knew this was just the start. The capital world of the Zareth Empire glowed like a jeweled crown in the darkness of space. Towering crystal spires stretched into the orange sky, reflecting the twin suns in 1,000 colors. Soldiers in shining armor patrolled the palace. Gates, their alien faces sharp, proud, and cold. Ethan Ward walked through those gates for the first time. His boots clicked softly on the smooth silver floor. He kept his eyes forward, but he could feel stares drilling into him from all sides. Humans were rare in the Zareth capital, very rare, and a human guard was even rarer. Today, he was the only one. Ethan had served in the Interplanetary Peace Corps for 6 years. After long tours on dusty colonies and pirate-infested outposts, he thought he had seen it all. But nothing prepared him for the Zareth Palace. The scale was overwhelming. The walls shimmered faintly as if they were alive, and tall alien banners hung from the ceilings, each one displaying the curling crest of the royal family. A tall Zareth officer with silver skin and eyes like molten gold walked beside him. "You will speak only when spoken to," the officer said in a voice that was deep and smooth, but clearly unfriendly. "You will not turn your back on the Queen unless ordered, and you will never, under any circumstance, attempt to touch her." Ethan nodded. "Understood, sir." The officer's eyes narrowed at the word sir. "I am Commander Tarek. You will address me properly in the Zareth tongue from now on." "Yes, Commander," Ethan corrected himself. Tarek stopped in front of 2 enormous doors, each carved with scenes of battle from Zareth history. The doors were guarded by 4 alien sentinels, each wearing ornate armor and holding a tall ceremonial spear. Their gazes were like ice. Tarek gave a short command. The doors opened without a sound. The throne chamber took Ethan's breath away. It was vast, big enough to fit a human stadium inside. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows high above, painting the marble floor with soft reds and blues. A single long carpet of deep purple stretched from the entrance all the way to the throne at the far end. And there she was. Queen Saravina sat on a raised platform, her tall crown catching the light. Her skin had the faint glow of polished pearl, and her eyes were the deep violet of a Zareth night. She wore a flowing gown of shimmering silver, embroidered with fine thread that glimmered with each movement. Ethan stepped onto the carpet, walking toward the throne with steady, trained steps. He could feel the weight of dozens of eyes from the court. Alien nobles in elaborate robes, ministers with their data tablets, guards in ceremonial armor. Halfway down the carpet, Ethan noticed the Queen's expression change. Her words stopped, mid-sentence. Her eyes widened slightly and her lips parted. For a second, it seemed as though she had forgotten where she was. The court went silent, as if the entire hall was holding its breath. Ethan kept walking, unsure if he had done something wrong. When he stopped a respectful distance from the throne, he bowed, not too low, as humans were taught to show respect, without appearing weak. When he straightened, the Queen was still staring at him. It wasn't the kind of stare a ruler gave a new guard. It was personal, searching, almost as if she was looking through him and seeing someone else. Her voice was soft when she finally spoke. "What? Is your name human?" "Ethan Ward, Your Majesty," he answered, his tone steady. "Assigned to the Royal Guard under the Peace Treaty Exchange." Her gaze sharpened. "Ward," she repeated slowly, as if testing the taste of the name. "And your father?" Ethan hesitated, puzzled by the question. "Thomas Ward, ma'am. He was a civilian engineer. He passed away when I was young." The Queen's eyes flickered at that, but she said nothing for a moment. Then she leaned back in her throne and gave the smallest wave of her hand. Commander Tarek stepped forward. "You will serve as the Queen's personal escort for the duration of your assignment," he announced. "You will remain within 3 paces of Her Majesty at all times." That was unusual. Ethan had expected to be part of the General Guard rotation, not glued to the Queen's side. But he kept his expression neutral and bowed again. "Yes, Commander." The Queen said nothing more, but as Ethan turned to take his position beside the throne, he could still feel her eyes on his back. Later that day, the corridors of the palace were a maze of smooth, gleaming halls and archways covered in alien script. Ethan followed the Queen at a careful distance as she moved from one audience chamber to another. Ministers brought reports, nobles presented petitions, and Ethan stood silently, watching for any sign of threat. But every now and then, he caught the Queen glancing at him. It wasn't a quick glance. Her gaze would linger for a few seconds, too. Long, her expression unreadable. Ethan had been trained to notice patterns, and this one was impossible to miss. During a break between meetings, the Queen dismissed her attendants. Only Ethan remained in the room. "Tell me, Ethan Ward," she said without turning to face him. "Have you ever been to Zareth before this week?" "No, Your Majesty," Ethan replied. "My service has been on human colonies and neutral stations." The Queen slowly turned her head to look at him. "You are very familiar to me." Ethan shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. "I don't believe we've met before, ma'am." "No," she said softly. "Not you, but someone you resemble very closely." She rose from her seat and stepped closer. Ethan kept still, though. His instincts told him to step back. She circled him slowly, her eyes scanning his face, his jawline, even the faint scar on his cheek. A scar from a training accident years ago. "It is unsettling," she murmured. Ethan frowned slightly. "If I may, Your Majesty, who do I resemble?" She did not answer at once. Instead, she walked back to her chair and sat down. "That is not for you to know yet." The door opened, and attendants poured back in. The Queen's expression returned to its calm, regal mask, but Ethan's mind was already buzzing with questions. Whispers in the court by evening, Ethan could feel the atmosphere in the palace shifting. Wherever he went, alien servants and guards whispered behind their hands. Some stared openly, while others avoided looking at him at all. In the guard barracks, 2 alien soldiers fell silent the moment he entered. One of them, a younger guard, named Relar, muttered something under his breath in the Zareth language. Ethan caught only one word: ghost. He tried to shake it off, but unease gnawed at him. He wasn't a stranger to being an outsider. On human colonies, soldiers were sometimes treated with suspicion. But this felt different. This felt personal. The first hint. That night, Ethan's quarters were quiet. The walls were smooth and pale, lit by soft blue light. He was removing his armor when he noticed something on the small table by his bed. It was a folded slip of paper, unusual in a palace where nearly everything was digital. He unfolded it. In careful handwriting, it read, "You are in danger. She sees him in you." Ethan stared at the words for a long time. He didn't know who him was, but he was starting to suspect that coming to the Zareth Palace wasn't going to be a simple guard duty assignment. Not at all.